presentation of Showtime Sports.
We've witnessed his power. If he gets up, it'll be a miracle. And after 2 career-defining encounters against James Toney, hey, how about that move? The slugger has evolved into a dangerous boxer-puncher. Passing around in triumph. Tonight, the Nigerian Nightmare embarks on a new chapter as interim WBC champion. Samuel Peter is next on America's Fight Night. Tonight, the big men square off on America's Fight Night. Yes, we're in the heart of New York City, and what a treat to be coming to you from the world's most famous arena for this edition of Showtime Championship Boxing. And welcome to the Mecca of boxing, Madison Square Garden, for heavyweights on the brink of fame and fortune. As hard-punching Sam, the Nigerian Nightmare Peter, defends his WBC interim heavyweight title against native son Jameel Big Time McCline. It's Fight Night in New York. Hello again, everybody. Steve Albert from Madison Square Garden. Well, over the years, boxing has certainly changed, but boxing fans haven't changed at all. They still love heavyweights. The division continues its star search, and toward that end, we intended to bring you the return of former world titleist Vitaly Klitschko in September and Sam Peter's first title shot tonight. Well, injuries changed all that, and as a result, the 2 men left standing are fighting each other. With that, let me bring on my ringside partner, Al Bersian. And Al, the spate of big fight injuries has had an impact on several careers, certainly Sam Peter and Jameel McCline.
It has indeed, and both men really were, in effect, involved in a 4-man round robin involving the WBC title. But McCline's September 22nd opponent, Vitaly Klitschko, pulled out due to a back injury. And then WBC champ Oleg Moskaev left tonight's planned match with Peter, also due to a back injury. Now, Peter ended up with an interim championship, and McCline got tonight's fight. This his 4th champ at some version of a world title. And in the world of boxing, as they say, so it goes.
And it is indeed a homecoming for Harlem-born, Long Island-raised Jameel McCline, who was originally set to fight Vitaly Klitschko in Munich, then Devarel Williamson on tonight's undercard. On 10 days' notice, he suddenly finds himself in the main event against interim champ Sam Peter with a lot at stake. Our Jim Gray visited with McCline in his dressing room earlier tonight.
Jameel, first off, it was in the newspaper yesterday in the Daily News here in New York. It was reported that you purchased $12,000 worth of steroids and human growth hormone from the time of March 05 until December of last year. Is that accurate?
I have no comment about that right now. The most important thing to me is going out and winning a WBC Heavyweight Championship of the World.
May not be important to you, but it certainly is important to the fans, and they want to know if you're a clean fighter and if you've been engaged in these activities.
Well, I don't know if the sport's clean, but I know I'm clean. In fact, when I came in, the very first thing I did, because of yesterday's reports, was I asked the commissioner to let's get the urine analysis out of the way right now. And in fact, I had 2 commissioners standing in front of me while I did it. So,
when will you have a comment on this?
After the fight.
Let's talk about the fight. You lost the fight because of injury, and now you get the opportunity to get a fight because of injury. Klitschko, you lost. This time Moskaev is injured, so you get back in. How do you sum up your feelings of getting this opportunity now when it looked like it was lost?
Well, it's a tremendous feeling. You know, God is good to me. I'm really happy to be here, and I'll make the best of it.
Jameel, you had a serious injury with your knee. about 9 or 10 months ago. Was there enough time for you to have rehabilitated that?
Absolutely, more than enough. In fact, I was rehabilitated in 4 months after the injury. So it took the rest of the time to get back into shape because, I sat on the couch for a lot of months and put on a lot of weight.
Sam Peter, a vicious puncher. How do you plan to use your height to your advantage?
Jameel McCline, a vicious fighter.
Jameel, thank you. We'll talk to you after the fight.
Thank you.
All right, Steve, out to you.
McCline's been fortunate that he's had 3 title shots. Peter, on the other hand, hasn't had any, but if any heavyweight deserves a shot at a title, it's Sam Peter. The WBC named Peter interim champion, but with Oleg Moskayev's injury, Peter will have to wait a bit longer before securing the opportunity to become fully recognized. It's hard to imagine any fighter who's gone through more trials and tribulations than the Nigerian Nightmare in his quest for the coveted belt.
Inside the ring, Sam Peter is arguably the most talented, most successful heavyweight today.
Nobody got much more power.
Outside the ropes, his career has been plagued by bad luck and boxing's politics. 3 times in 2 years, he's been on the threshold of a title fight, and 3 times he's been denied. In an IBF and WBO title eliminator, he knocked Vladimir Klitschko down 3 times, but lost his first fight and his first opportunity at a title shot.
Who has the eye of a champion knows that I won that fight.
In his next title eliminator, Peter met James Toney in Toney's adopted hometown of Los Angeles.
Ladies and gentlemen, after 12 rounds of action, we have a split decision in favor of the winner of the WBC title elimination, the Nigerian Nightmare, Samuel Peter.
I'm from Nigeria, Africa. I come here to in James Toney house and I win this fight.
But Peter's joy turned into his own nightmare. Instead of mandating a title fight, the WBC took the unusual step of ordering Peter to fight Toney again because of what was deemed questionable scoring.
Peter continues to control the action.
In the rematch, Peter thoroughly dominated Toney to win a unanimous decision.
Peter dancing around in triumph.
I'm the real champion, I fight him again and I still beat him, and I beat him this time around and I put him where he belonged to.
That victory finally granted Peter the right to fight the WBC champion, Oleg Moskayev. But once again, Peter was denied. First by a bevy of lawsuits threatening the bout, and then because Moskayev pulled out with a training injury.
I was ready to fight to take the wall, but he pulled out. I was hurt, because I really want to fight him.
Despite the many disappointments, Peter's faith in himself has never wavered, and his desire to be a champion has only grown, fueled by desire and anger.
Well, Al, not only Sam Peter, but Jameel McCline has his own issues as well.
He really does. One, of course, is one he shares with Peter, and that is the change in opponents so late, so quick before a fight. The second one is that surgically repaired knee. He has to have some doubts, even though he says he doesn't, how well it will hold up in this match. And then the third thing for him is that he has never stepped up to the plate when he's had a championship opportunity, and the question is, can he do it tonight? For Peter, the one thing that's kind of glossed over in all this is the fact that all these legal machinations, Steve, have created the longest layoff in his career of 9 months. It's got to be of some concern to him.
All right, Al, so let's find out what Sam Peter makes of all of this. Earlier this evening, he spoke with Jim Gray.
All right, Sam, you have had now a 9-month layoff because of all of the injuries and all of the politics of boxing. Are you concerned about being rusty?
No, I'm not rusty. I'm still young, it's all about what the plan of God, if this one time God says it's going to be happen. So all those things we're doing, we just rumble and jumble, in the jungle. so now, this is the real time, for us to do the real things. I'm fine.
How frustrating has this been for you?
Well, I'm not frustrated. I was waiting, to see what God's going to do.
Well, God's not going to fight. You're going to have to fight. What about Jameel McCline?
I fight Jameel McCline, so I just appreciate what God's done. So Jameel McCline is a human being like me, so I'm just gonna go there today, to show our power.
Are you concerned about his height and that being an advantage?
It doesn't matter. All height people, they always fought in the right time.
and you consider yourself to be the best heavyweight in the world. How much longer do you think you can go without having the title?
Well, I believe anytime God says it's okay, it's okay. I'm the best now because I got WBC heavyweight championship belt. So anytime, any moment.
All right, Samuel, best of luck tonight. We'll talk to you after the fight.
Thank you.
All right, back out to you, Steve.
So in just a matter of minutes, hard-hitting Sam Peter will be on the biggest stage of his career here in New York City as he closes in on seasoned challenger Jameel McCline. And that leads us to tonight's poll question. Who do you think the winner of tonight's bout should fight next? If you think tonight's winner should fight Vitaly Klitschko, text message VK to SHOTV. That's 74688. Or if you think Oleg Moskayev should be the next opponent for tonight's winner, text OM to SHOTV. That's 74688. Standard text messaging rates apply. And now here's what's coming up on Showtime Sports.
ShowBox, the new generation, returns Friday, October 19th when unbeaten heavyweight Travis Walker makes his third appearance on the series versus TJ Wilson. Then it's mixed martial arts action on Friday, October 26th as ShowXC Elite Challenger Series features Aaron Rosa versus Jared Hammond. Friday, November 2nd, it's the 100th episode of ShowBox with the IBF heavyweight elimination bout between Eddie Chambers and Calvin Brock. America's Fight Night is back on Saturday, November 3rd. Showtime Championship Boxing presents Juan Manuel Marquez as he defends his WBC super featherweight belt and pound-for-pound status against hard-punching Rocky Juarez. Saturday, November 10th, Elite Extreme Combat returns to the cage with more MMA action. Friday, November 16th, ShowBox comes to you from the Caribbean island of St. Lucia as we showcase a doubleheader featuring 4 undefeated fighters. Friday, November 23rd, Showtime Pay-Per-View presents a Bad Blood grudge match between former world champions Fernando Vargas and Ricardo Mayorga in a 12-round special attraction. There's more ShowBox on Friday, November 30th with fights featuring James Kirkland and Alfredo Angulo. And Saturday, December 1st, Showtime Championship Boxing co-features 2 of boxing's marquee performers when light heavyweight title holder Antonio Tarver and junior middleweight champion Vernon Forrest defend their crowns. For information on these events and all our programming on Showtime, we invite you to visit our website, sho.com.
And we hope you can join us for all the upcoming action. Well, tonight we're at storied Madison Square Garden, steeped in boxing history, the scene of countless legendary fights, so many memorable moments in the ring. But there has been a recent renovation. For more, let's go over to Jim Gray. Jim?
All right, Steve, thank you very much. There are very few places in our country that can be considered sporting historic landmarks. Perhaps the most important venues are the Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum and Yankee Stadium. But in terms of boxing, indelible are the moments and the imprint of the footsteps that are etched in the canvas of the ring at Madison Square Garden, which after 82 years was retired on September 19th.
This ring will be retired, sent up to the Boxing Hall of Fame in Canastota, New York.
Present at the Garden for the retirement ceremony were many famous faces who once graced the ring. Third man in the ring, Arthur McCanty, for what was called the fight of the century between Joe Frazier and Muhammad Ali in 1971.
It's a pleasure to be back in the Garden again. Well, I like to give thanks to all the great fans, let's say all the fine photographers that does a great job. And I'm pretty sure this ring will be placed in the right place, and therefore it serves a lot of purpose.
It has been the centerpiece for the Mecca of boxing, burned in the memories of fans and forever remembered, like the great champions who called this canvas home.
The bell will continue to toll. It remains. Among those who entered the ropes and graced the canvas, greats, and I mean greats, the likes of Muhammad Ali, Joe Louis, Rocky Marciano, Sugar Ray Robinson, Sugar Ray Leonard, Mike Tyson, and many, many more. Suffice it to say, no ring will ever surpass this one as the most famous in the sport's history. Steve?
All right, Jim, thanks very much. And now there's sort of an ironic twist associated with this new ring here.
Yeah, there really is. Tonight was supposed to be the last night that ring would be in use. However, Oleg Moskaev, who was supposed to fight tonight, had a clause in his contract that he would not fight in any ring smaller than 20 feet. That legendary ring measures 18.6. And so that ring is not here tonight, but ironically, neither is Oleg Moskaev.
Well, could the new ring sort of be symbolic of a new era in the heavyweight division, which really hasn't been the same since Lennox Lewis retired?
Boxing would certainly hope for that, that's for sure. And, you know, here in this city, the Broadway theater community certainly knows how to stage revivals of great shows from the past. Well, boxing would like to do the same for its heavyweight division. And if it does, it's not a stretch to think that the youngest of the major heavyweights, the 27-year-old Peter, would be the central character. And that depends on whether he continues the improvement of his technique and strategy. Two elements that, by the way, will totally determine how well his opponent, Jameel McCline, will do tonight. McCline cannot afford mistakes in this fight.
In part of that mistake-free plan, McCline needs to use his 6'6" frame as a weapon. Stand tall, make Peter find him. Jameel has a decent left hook, but to throw it off and would put him in position to get countered by Peter's hook. He has a good but not often used uppercut. It could pay dividends tonight. Against a shorter attacking Cedric Boswell, he held down his head, not exactly legal, but he used this uppercut very effectively. And this set up a barrage of punches that won him the match. Peter can be hit by an uppercut, and McCline needs to use it tonight. For Peter, a double jab allows him to move in range to land a big punch. And if McCline does use the left hook, Peter needs to counter it with his own. Against taller fighters, Peter lands the overhand right a little better than his vaunted left hook. Now, if McCline is off target with the jab, as Vladimir Klitschko was here, Peter can come back with an overhand right. And any punch like this that Sam Peter lands can definitely change a match.
Jameel McCline with some last-minute thoughts as he gets ready to exit his dressing room and make that walk toward the ring. And very old school in that he is coming in to no music whatsoever. 5 years ago, he was one of the hottest heavyweight contenders. Some impressive wins. Stopped Michael Grant on the first punch of the fight, but couldn't get to that next level, losing 3 title bids. A guy who spent 11 years in an orphanage, 5 years in prison, pulled himself up, was self-taught, eventually wrote a thesis on political science. Incredible stuff. He's overcome so much adversity in his life, Al. He'll take risks outside the ring. He'll go to Munich to fight Vitaly Klitschko. He'll fight Sam Peter. But when the bell rings, we've seen him sometimes be non-combative. He won't get after it. What an opportunity here on this huge platform to erase that criticism.
You know, in major fights, you might say he is frozen in some respects. And early in his career, he actually consulted a hypnotist to try and get him mentally past that point. For Jameel McCline, what's going to happen next is as much mental as it is physical.
Can a guy who's 7-4 in his last 11 fights, with 3 of his 7 losses by knockout, get another chance for a shot at glory? And when was the last time you saw a fighter enter a ring without music?
A cappella.
Unbelievable. Well, cue the band. Some may doubt the validity of this belt, but you can't blame Sam Peter. A long way from Akwa Ibom, Nigeria, where he started out boxing barefoot and bare-fisted. Boxing fans are enamored with big men who bring big power. Well, Peter has the ingredients to be a star. Is he the goods? The thing is, Al, up until recently, not a lot of folks considered him championship caliber. But now many boxing insiders believe he's the second best heavyweight out there behind Vladimir Klitschko.
Yeah, he's a fighter who has, in some ways, proven his mettle. But we have to remember that his best performance was that performance against Tony, and that's the singular great performance he's given. So maybe still some things to prove.
And what does Oleg Moskev's team think about all this? To say they're upset that the WBC named Peter interim champ and that Peter didn't wait for Moskayev to return is an understatement. Let's check the numbers here at Madison Square Garden as we go to the tail of the tape. Peter has the youth by a decade, turned 27 exactly 4 weeks ago. Two huge, imposing physical specimens, but McCline with the advantages, a towering 6'6", nearly a half-foot taller, 3-inch edge in reach. At Thursday's weigh-in, Peter is svelte 250, McCline at 266. And the key unified rules for this fight: there's no standing 8 count, no 3 knockdown rule. A fighter cannot be saved by the bell in any round. If an accidental headbutt causes a fight to end within 4 rounds, it's a no decision. After 4 rounds, they go to the scorecards. And if a punch causes a cut and the injured fighter can't continue, he loses by TKO. So here at Madison Square Garden, let's go to Jimmy Lennon Jr.
Ladies and gentlemen, a very good evening to you and welcome to the world's most famous arena, Madison Square Garden in New York City. As at this time, we present our featured bout of the evening, brought to you by Don King Productions in association with Madison Square Garden, Duva Boxing, and Showtime. This bout coming away is sanctioned by the World Boxing Council, the president, Jose Suleiman, supervisors, Prince Attaboy and Joe Dwyer, along with the New York State Athletic Commission. The chairman is Ron Scott Stevens. Our chief physician, Dr. Barry Jordan, physicians at ringside, Dr. Joseph Herrera and Dr. Osric King, timekeeper at the bell, Kathy Paolillo, keeping count of the knockdowns, Danny Schiavone. Introducing to you at this time are 3 judges scoring this bout from ringside. From Kingston, New York, Billy Costello. From West Nyack, New York, Julie Letterman. And from Rivervale, New Jersey, Steve Weisfeld. Our third man of the ring, our referee in charge of the action, hails from Hamden, Connecticut, Michael Ortega. All right, fans, here we go with our main event of the evening. 12 rounds of boxing for the WBC Interim Heavyweight Championship of the World. And now, ladies and gentlemen in attendance and boxing fans joining us around the world, live from Madison Square Garden in New York City, it's showtime! Introducing to you first, the challenger on my right, fighting out of the blue corner, wearing dark blue trunks with white trim, fighting out of West Palm Beach, Florida, by way of New York City. He weighed in at 266 pounds with a record of 38 wins, 7 losses, and 3 draws. He has 23 wins coming by way of knockout tonight. He is making his 4th attempt at a world title. Please welcome the current WBC number 9 ranked world contender, introducing the challenger, Jameel Big Time McCline. And his opponent across the ring on my left, the defending world champion, fighting out of the red corner, wearing light blue trunks with white and silver trim, fighting out of Las Vegas, Nevada, by way of Akwa Ibom, Nigeria. He weighed in at an even 250 pounds with a record of 28 wins, 1 loss. He has 22 wins coming by way of knockout. Ladies and gentlemen, here is the WBC Interim Heavyweight Champion of the World, known as the Nigerian Nightmare, introducing Samuel Peter. Charge of this bout, Michael Ortega, now to give instructions. 12 rounds of boxing schedule.
Wait a minute, we've got to get everybody out. 1 second. Just want to get everybody out. Hang on. Stay there. Julie, Steve.
They're trying to clear the ring here before Michael Ortega, the referee, can give the final instructions.
Jameel. Gentlemen, we went over the rules. I want a good, clean fight. Protect yourself at all times. Obey my commands at all times. From here up is good. From here up is good. All right, gentlemen, touch them up. Good luck to both of you.
Immediately noticeable the height difference, but will it matter? Originally coming in to challenge for a title, Sam Peter, now defending one. His first exposure to the Garden, the massively built, aggressive Peter against Jameel McCline, his third Garden fight. He's 1-1. The question is, how will the sometimes ultra-cautious and unaggressive McCline respond if he tastes Peter's power? Here we go. The bell for round one. Scheduled for 12 for the WBC interim heavyweight title. Peter immediately going to the body with the jab. Remember, he can drop you with a jab, and even punches that don't land flush can be disorienting. McCline, who will look to jab and move, is hittable. Pretty good chin. He did last into the 10th with another big puncher, Vladimir Klitschko, but McCline didn't want to make it a fight and basically survived.
Speaking of Vladimir Klitschko, you know, McCline watched the video of Klitschko fighting Peter, and that is the ultimate game plan for a fighter to beat Sam Peter. You have to jab, give him just enough movement. When he gets on the inside, hold, which Klitschko did a lot in that fight, was not penalized, and we'll have to see how much Whitaker holds on the inside and whether he will be penalized.
Peter promised an early knockout, hoping to end it in dramatic, statement-like fashion. He pushes McCline back with a left hook. Peter vastly improved with his overall boxing skills, but pressure and the big right, his calling cards. Not a bad left hook, and a punch McCline is quite vulnerable to. And Peter, Al, just so hard to hurt. He takes his shot so well, and then he comes back punching.
Yeah, he has a great chin, and early in this fight, one of the things we were looking for was whether Peter would jab effectively, and boy, he has, and it's made this a very good first round for him.
I think once Peter realizes McCline can't hurt him, if that happens, he'll take more chances.
Way back.
A little bit of a problem with the cushioned advertising on the canvas, so they push that back out of danger. The fighters can obviously slip on it. We approach the final minute of the first round. McCline, athletic and skilled, holding and hitting there.
It's very early in this match, but one thing you have to say about Sam Peter is he doesn't look rusty. The 9-month layoff, the longest one he's had. He's been pretty sharp in this first round.
And again, he looks to be in good physical condition, which was the case in the rematch with Tony 9 months ago, when he dropped 8 pounds from the first fight with James. Now he's just 1 pound more than that rematch at 250.
The McCline jab is really going to need to be a little more active than it's been here in round number one.
Peter digging to the body.
There's a McCline jab. He can land that. Sam Peter can be hit. It's hurting him. That's the problem. There's that big overhand right, and it hurt McCline.
And Peter has never been dropped pro or amateur, a limited amateur career. And then Peter hammers to the head. Watch out for those clubbing rights.
Watch the back of the head, guys.
And that's exactly what Michael Ortega says to Sam Peter. Watch the back of the head.
Lay back and relax a little, Samuel. Listen, you're working good. The only thing is that you're on your flat feet trying to get to him. You need to get on the balls of your toes to get to him.
We talked about the fact that even though Peter is known maybe a little more as a left hook artist, against these taller fighters, it's the overhand right that works best for him. There's one, and look where it lands, kind of on the back of the head, side of the head of Whitaker. That's just where that punch naturally goes. And then later in the round, an even better, or to McCline, I should say, a good right hand to the head of Jameel McCline, and those right hands are good. I said Whitaker because you know what? Lance Whitaker's a big, tall fighter like him.
Very good. Okay. All right. Very good. Remember that up.
Here we go, round 2. Sam Peter, 28-1, 22 knockouts. He's in the powder blue. Jameel McCline, 38-7 and 323 KOs in the dark blue.
You saw Jameel McCline just there bend in. He is not fighting tall, as we suggested would be necessary in the keys. And if you're a big guy like him, you've got to do that against Sam Peter. You can't put yourself in his punching range.
I think where Peter has most improved is his effective fighting from the outside. That way, you don't get hit as much. It's plain and simple. Now, for McCline, he's got the good jab, but he's got to get close enough to land it. And I don't blame him for not being too close to a guy who can punch like Peter. There's the jab popping by McCline, but it's having little or no effect on the thick-set Nigerian. And now Peter answers back with a couple of jabs of his own. Right now it's just a probing jab. Let's see if it sets up the big right. Nice left hook by Sam Peter. Peter's so strong, he's just pushing him back with that left hook. He gets so much leverage on that and the jab.
And great body work so far by Peter, which is sometimes goes unnoticed in his repertoire, and sometimes he doesn't do it. He throws many more punches now than he did before.
And they're more precise, straighter, and a bigger punch volume, as you point out.
Now, McCline landed a couple of good left hooks early in this round. And while I think those are dangerous punches for him, I think we're already in a spot in this fight where, because he's not going to be able to fight a good tactical fight, he might as well go for broke and throw some power left hooks and see if that can hurt Sam Peter.
And McCline, the mistake he's making, I think, Al, he's going straight back, so he's still in the line, in the path of the fight. He's got to move around. There's a pretty good combination of the head by McCline.
That's what he wants, but don't languish on the inside. There's Peter whacking away with that right hand.
And there we see what McCline was talking about, watching the Peter-Vladimir Klitschko fight by grabbing on and holding. Big right hand there by Peter. Then he takes to the body. That was a good countering right by Sam Peter.
Jameel, let him out. Let's go. Come on.
And a left hook followed by a right hand by Peter. And that got McCline's attention. And he continues to hold.
Jameel McCline is negating his height advantage and his reach advantage by bending in, and if you stand right in front of Peter and you're about his height, he will torture you with those big punches.
I'll say one thing, McCline's trying to keep a fast pace, which is good against a guy like Sam Peter. You got to try to tire Peter out and get him to the later rounds where he could run out of gas, which happened against Vladimir Klitschko. That's a good left hook to the head by Sam Peter. Misses with the right.
Come here, give me your gloves. You all right? All right, let's go.
A body shot just before the bell that sent Peter sprawling to the canvas for the first time in his career. It may have been a little higher, but we'll see it momentarily.
Look, Samuel, when his head is going down, you coming down, you need to come up under. You need to come up under with the uppercut. Other than that, you're doing okay, baby.
All right. That's all right. It's a 12-round fight. Don't worry about that. Okay?
Right,
trying to take your time.
That's fine.
Trying to take it. All right, just relax.
Listen up.
Go ahead, Pop.
Let's go back working with the jab. The jab. Come with the combination. The minute he...
I don't know how hurt Peter was, but it was a right hand that put him down. He comes up, and actually it's kind of an uppercut. Remember, we talked about in the keys to victory how well the uppercut could work for McCline. And guess what? He got one in. See, look, he comes up with the uppercut, and there goes Sam Peter. That was a great punch, and it worked for McCline.
It was sort of on the neck by McCline, that shot. And there's a McCline looking for the major upset here. Peter knocked down. Again, there he goes. The second time he's down.
6, 7, 8. You all right? Come here, walk to me. You all right? You can go? All right, let's go.
Can Sam Peter make it through the third round? He's got a long way to go. 2:12 and counting. Can McCline
He is very arm-weary.
But what a turn of events here. It was supposed to be the other way around.
McCline's got some issues here unless he hurts him again, because Peter could land something big in the rest of this round, believe it or not. As great a round as it's been for McCline.
You're right. McCline looks gashed. Can Peter take advantage? Peter again. The third time.
5, 6, 7, 8. Come here, walk to me. Hands up. You all right? You want to continue? You okay? Yeah. Let's go.
He responded yes to that question. 42 seconds to go.
Maybe Jameel McCline wasn't that tired, huh?
Don't push.
Peter digging to the body. Can he get through the final seconds and regroup? Will McCline roll? They continue to go back and forth. Unbelievable. Sustained action for heavyweights. Big heavyweights. 10 seconds to go in the third.
Watch your head, Sam. Watch your head. Step back, right.
McCline unable to finish Peter off, but Peter, who had not been down his entire career, down 3 times already in this fight.
Sit down. Samuel, listen, you got to be smart. You got to move. You understand me? Now listen, keep your hands up. Your right hand is up low. He's hitting you with left hooks. Keep your right hand up until you get your sit.
We talked about the uppercut of Jameel McCline. He had used it to knock Peter down earlier. There's the overhand right. Well, the overhand right gets him down actually after an uppercut had hurt him earlier. And Sam Peter in big trouble there. And then the second knockdown would come again courtesy of a right hand. That one was the one that started the problem for Peter, and then a left hand in addition to the right. So Jameel McCline, I'll tell you something else we're seeing in his replay, Steve, putting combinations together in this fight.
Did Sam Peter come in overconfident? Jameel McCline so far stealing the spotlight and proving that Sam Peter can be hurt.
Both men had limited time to prepare for each other. They both reached out to good sparring partners. Sherman Williams went into the McCline camp, who approximated Peter, and Peter had Zuri Lawrence, a fighter who beat McCline once before, to beat McCline. So they both got about 4 sessions with the good sparring people. Hey, Peter coming on now.
Peter looking for a little turnaround. Early round 4. It was desperation time coming into this fight for Jameel McCline, his last chance, and I'll tell you what, he's making the most of it right here.
4th opportunity at some version of a heavyweight title, and no one can say he's been tentative in this fight because he has thrown some big punches.
Now the pace slows down just a bit after some feverish action. A running left hook by Peter, but it was partially blocked.
And when we look back at round 3 in this fight, if Sam Peter is able to collect himself and somehow win this fight, he will look back at that round, and everyone will, and say that was tremendous fortitude just to get through the round. Jameel McCline landed some major shots.
But to this point, a lot of doubts being raised about Sam Peter. Coming off the 2 victories over James Toney, one controversial, one one-sided, the rematch.
Now the McCline jab has been mostly a pawing effort in this round, not as stiff as it was earlier.
Peter going to the body. The jab by McCline. The right hand getting through the guard, and then a countering left hook, raising the head of McCline.
McCline's doing a brilliant job on the inside, though, of holding Peter. Will Michael Ortega take a point away at some point? Has it been that blatant? It's actually not been, so it's just a good tactical move right now from McCline.
Well, on a night that a lot of people were ready to anoint Sam Peter, the proverbial jury is still out. Can he come back from this?
And so far, that surgically repaired knee of McCline has held up extraordinarily well.
And he came back in about 4 or 5 months when he was supposed to come back in 10 months from that injury.
Dr. Steve Stoller repairing that.
Okay, you got it. Sit down, sit down. Short sounds, sit down. Good work. Just got to pull it together, baby. This is it.
Straight down with the hands.
Hear what I'm saying?
Get him out of here. Deep press, deep press, baby. Nice and calm.
You forgot that uppercut. He's bending right into it. Little short jab, right hand uppercut. Are you listening to me, sir? Huh? Set him up with the jab. Bop, bop, bop. Right hand uppercut. He's bending right into it. Do it.
Well, there's size, there's heads, there's all things to be used on the inside, and there's Jameel McCline kind of moving that head off and banging Sam Peter. Any port in a storm. And of course, we heard in McCline's corner, they want that uppercut from him. Matthew Drayton, understanding that's a weapon that can work. And he said, you forgot it in the last round.
A punch that could be tremendously effective against Sam Peter. Leaning in. It was supposed to be McCline leaning in. Round 5 scheduled for 12 for the WBC Interim Heavyweight Championship. That's gotten very dramatic, a little too dramatic for Sam Peter's taste. Left hook followed by a right hand by Peter. As McCline dancing around. McCline standing right in the pocket. Firing jabs and then hangs on. Pesky jab there by McCline, just keeping it in Peter's face, which is good strategy. He told us in the fighter meeting yesterday that would be a big key to his game plan.
Sam Peter was hoping, of course, to get a big win tonight, go back to Nigeria for a couple of weeks. He's become quite a popular figure back there, but the way this fight is going right now, it could be a sad trip back if he doesn't turn things around.
He wanted to go back to celebrate. He may have to go back to recuperate.
Of course, we're a long way from the end of this fight, but so far, a lot more troubles than he anticipated here.
Down 3 times already in this fight. Sam Peter. Take a look through 4 at press row scoring. What a surprise. This was not thought to be the case coming in. All the time. There's Peter with the jab sending McCline back. Remember that jab dropped James Toney in his last fight 9 months ago. It was a double jab, and that's a big weapon for Peter.
Another one. When Peter does jab like that, he's very, very effective.
There it is again, just messing with McCline's face. Let's see if he sends it into a combination. Follows up. There's that clubbing right hand behind the head.
Step back. Hey, watch behind the head. Okay? Be careful.
Michael Ortega once again warning Sam Peter. I believe that's the second time. He's notorious for that. Sam just missed with that left hook.
Now those wild left hooks from Peter also leave him open for countering, but McCline has really slowed his pace.
Well, big punch volume by the big guy at 6'6". And he's trying to just gather himself and get a second win.
Good round for Sam Peter.
And then back comes McCline. Somebody lost a mouthpiece. It looks like McCline, but academic now as the bell sounds. Yeah, it was Jameel.
All right, now listen. Everything is starting to come in line. That's your boxing. But because you're boxing and you're using your jab.
Listen, last warning. Next time you hit behind the head, I'm going to take a point.
In the clinches, don't do it. Stop punching in the clinch. Stop punching in the clinch. Ward him down. You got to come up with the punch rather than over.
No.
All right. I got it. All right. Now listen. Come on, Sam. Stay smart. Stay smart. You understand?
I said no.
And keep jabbing. Work your jab.
Keep jabbing, yep. That's for sure. He did it in the last round very well, Sam Peter. The overhead right gets there, and then the jab right following it. There's actually a pawing jab that set up that right hand before it. Now, Michael Ortega warning Peter that he'll take points away if he does this again, hitting behind the head, and McCline follows suit. But as we said before the fight, that's a trait of Peter. He did it a lot against Vladimir Klitschko.
Now we're starting to have some ebb and flow as Peter started to come back in that fifth round. It's round 6 scheduled for 12. Sometimes when you lose a mouthpiece, particularly more than once, it's only happened once, it is a sign of fatigue. And we'll see if that is the case.
Let me point out that in round 3, that could be a pivotal round in this match because McCline knocked him down right at the end of the round, but it really lost most of the rest of the round. I made it a 10-9 round for McCline, not a 10-8 round. We'll see how that plays out in the judges' scorecard.
And if you're looking for telltale signs, McCline's mouth is wide open, and that is often a sign of fatigue.
Now, a lot of times he fights that way, but sometimes it is fatigue.
We shall see.
Yeah. The jury is out on that one.
Right now it's conjecture, but it remains to be seen. Less than 2 minutes to go in the 6th. Can Sam Peter continue to come back after being on the canvas 3 times in this fight? He's well behind. Look at this exchange.
Punches up. Step back. Let's go. Step back. Good job.
Both men have slowed their pace in terms of number of punches thrown, and you would expect that with heavyweight.
Is Peter looking for that one explosive punch?
That was a great left hook for the body, and Sam Peter in these middle rounds could do himself a great service by going to the body.
And there was that uppercut attempt as Peter was leaning in by McCline, but it grazed Sam's head.
They're right. He's completely forgotten to throw that punch. And when I talked about it before the fight, I said not often used uppercut. And that's his problem, Steve. He just doesn't throw that punch enough.
Well, Sam Peter has never been in this position before, having been on the canvas, so I'm sure he's just trying to regroup.
And these are close rounds here now in the 5th and in this 6th round.
As Peter tries to battle back from a deep hole. What Peter could really use here, obviously, is a 2-point round. Try to put McCline down. McCline's been down 3 times in his career.
Interestingly, Chris Bird, one of the people that put him down, not thought of as a big knockout punch.
McCline able to keep that jab in Peter's face. There's a of Sam Peter. And then a nice straight right hand. Just as Ortega was trying to break him up. Good finish.
Hurt him with that left hook right at the end, Steve.
Yes. Jameel McCline with a strong finish.
Come on, baby. Put them together. Sit down. Pull yourself together. Pull yourself together. Here, are you listening to? Put the arms down. Put the arms down. Relax. Deep breath. Come on. Release from the back. That's it. Release from the back. Very nice. You can't let him see this.
Jameel McCline does have his mouth open which could indicate some fatigue, although, as I point out, sometimes he fights that way a lot. So in his case, that may or may not be the case. But the fact that his punch output has gone down is maybe more evidence. But at the end of that round, McCline had a tremendous combination there. I think that left hook really hurt Sam Peter, and he tried to follow up on the inside just at the end of the bell, end of the round.
McCline, who looked so uptight and tense in his fight with Vladimir Klitschko. A different story here, very calm, composed, relaxed against Sam Peter in this interim heavyweight title bout. Taking this fight on 10 days' notice, McCline on the dark blue trunks.
Let him out, don't fire.
He was supposed to fight Devarel Williamson on this card, and before that, of course, a couple of weeks ago, Vitaly Klitschko in Munich. A machine gun series of punches there by McCline. Some of that got through. Then he looks to go downstairs. A wild swing and a miss off the left hook attempt by Peter. Peter then guns in with a right hand. And now he's starting to make some more contact, Peter.
And those were nice combinations, Steve. And when Sam Peter moves his hands in combination, obviously, he improves dramatically.
And Crestro has it this way. It's starting to get closer. Michael Woods from ESPN The Magazine has it all even. George Willis, New York Post. Keith Idek from the Herald News and The Record.
And I've got McCline ahead by 1 point in this fight, because I gave the first 2 rounds to Peter and then only a 10-9 round in the 3rd round.
Starting to get interesting, at least along the panel of press row.
But Sam Peter's having himself a very good 7th round here.
Midway through it. Scheduled for 12 WBC Interim Heavyweight Championship.
The interesting thing, though, is would you have ever thought you'd be in round 7 saying, gee, when's the next time Jameel McCline's going to hurt Sam Peter? And that's kind of what you're thinking in this fight, because he's landed the more powerful punches for the most part.
Sort of laying in wait here. There's a big right hand that got through by Peter, right on the jaw of McCline. Set it up with the jab, but McCline looks okay. And then he comes back with a left-right combination upstairs. Tough job for Michael Ortega to control these 2 guys. Huge right hand over the top by Peter. That has McCline holding.
That's the punch Sam Peter can land against these big guys. It's a little harder for him to get the hook in, but he finds a home for that overhand right. Jameel McCline has taken some pretty big shots from Sam Peter and not come close to going down.
If Peter can straighten that punch out, it could be Peter. It's a little too looping and wide right now.
Big round, though, for Sam Peter. This is one in which he's got himself back in the storm.
But back comes McCline, who finished strong the last round. And then body shots there by Peter. Not a lot of let up.
Okay, now you're working beautiful. Now you're starting to come back. Now listen, Samuel, be smart, be wise, man.
Come on, baby. Come on. Come on, Sam.
When he's grabbing hold of you, come up the middle with the uppercut.
Come on, you gotta wake up, baby. Wake up. You gotta wake up.
Look, this is your title. You can't let him come on.
Early in the fight, Peter was landing this overhand right, and there with the jab as a rangefinder, he sets up this excellent right hand. And that one was delivered a little straighter. You pointed out, Steve, that the straighter it is, the better, and that one wasn't quite such a roundhouse. When we take another look at it, he had set this up with a couple of range-finding jabs, lands the right, and McCline holds on, as he has been doing for much of this fight.
And doing it when he had to, it's been the wise strategy.
Yep, it really has. And Michael Ortega might be taking a look at how much he's holding.
A lot of experience in that Sam Peter corner. The venerable Pops Anderson and veteran trainer Stacy McKinley. McKinley, the one yelling in the ear of Sam Peter, you've got to wake up, Sam. You've got to wake up.
Both these men have something in common. Limited amateur experience. In McCline, almost none. He started boxing very late in life, had that 5-year stay in prison. Peter only had 20 amateur fights. They've both learned as pros to a great extent. Even McCline at age 37, not much experience, really.
Peter, with the uppercut attempt, did not connect, fortunately for McCline. And just as McCline was leaning in.
McCline's punch output has gone way down the last couple of rounds.
And Peter has been slowly but surely taking advantage of that. About a minute gone by round 8.
Here's the uppercut.
And there it is again. Yeah. It startled Peter. Now Peter holds on.
This fight has become not just an interesting fight, a good tactical fight, too. There's a lot going on here, a lot of nuanced action in this fight.
A lot of people, I'm sure, thought that McCline, if he stood in front of Peter the way he is, he'd be in trouble. It'd be dangerous, but it's not happening.
And one of them sitting right next to you.
Is that right?
Yeah. But I was wrong.
Peter with the overhand right nearly to the back of the head. Ortega said if he did it one more time, he'd take a point. And right now, these points are critical. The jab by Peter. Close, one and done.
Close round here in round 8. A round there for the taking by either of these men.
Wait. Let's go. Let him out. Let's go. Let him out. Watch your head inside. Watch your head inside.
Jameel McCline noisy when he throws that jab, but it's not landing right now.
Peter always tries to sneak in one more as Ortega is breaking them up. Right uppercut on the inside by McCline, and Peter hangs on.
Step back, step back, step back. Watch your head coming in. Watch your head, Jameel. Okay, don't lean in.
Again, McCline sticking Peter with the jab.
It's a pivotal round, a close round here in the 8th.
It's an effective jab because it keeps Peter at bay.
Break, hold your punches, hold your head. Time!
Jameel McCline got back to using the uppercut in the last round. And it is a punch that can get there against Peter, and he doubled up with that punch. So, but those were really probably the only two he threw in that last round. So now you can't throw it too often because you can't throw it from way outside. But Peter is often in a position where you can throw that punch, and when McCline does it, he lands. That was a very close round.
Yeah, start coming back with left hook, right hands now. Deep breath, baby. He's a tall man. Left hook, right hands on him, all right? Okay. Okay. Come on, let's set him up, Sam. Let's set him up. Okay. All right. Let's go, baby. Let's go, Samuel. Something new, Sam. Something new. Let's go.
When Peter fought Vladimir Klitschko, he knocked Klitschko down 3 times and ended up losing a unanimous decision in the elimination fight. Could he survive 3 knockdowns and come back to win?
That's a very, very interesting point. If he runs the table on these rounds, or even I have really a very close fight, if he wins some of these last rounds, you're right, he may reverse his fortunes.
Wouldn't that be something?
Let him out. Let's go. Let him out. Don't lean on him. Let's go. Step back.
Well, while everybody is looking to anoint him as the next heavyweight star, when you really break it down, he's still learning.
That's exactly what his people say. They say, Pops Anderson and the people working with him say he's at about 60% of where he may get to. Again, because even though he represented Nigeria in the Olympics, only had 20 amateur fights. And that's exactly right. And what he's shown us tonight is, in addition to a lot of fortitude, in flashes, he's shown us again, that his skills are improving. And let's give Jameel McCline credit. He has fought very well.
Take a look at press row scoring now as things continue to get more interesting. It's 2 guys have McCline winning, and now Peter's ahead on Michael Woods' scorecard.
I have the draw at 76-76. And round 3 is the key for me because I made it only a 10-9 round for McCline with the knockdown because Peter had dominated it. And someone may have that different.
If you're just tuning in, Sam Peter, the interim champion on the canvas for the first time in his career, and on the canvas 3 times at the fists of Jameel McCline.
Yeah, I meant round 2. Excuse me, I misspoke. That's the round I had 10.
There's a stiff jab by Peter. Will he follow it up with the right hand? Right now it's just a probing jab.
Break! Step back. Let him out. Let's go. Break.
You hear me?
Let him go. Let him up. Let him up. Hey, that was way low. Okay, pick him up. Let's go.
Michael Ortega, third man of the ring, gracious enough to wear Mike.
Break! Break! Step back. Let's go. Hold the punches. That's it. Step back. Break! Let him out. Let him out. Don't push on him.
And more work for Ortega, has to break up the holding, which becomes more frequent as the fight wears on. There's a nice little combination to the head by McCline towards the end of the round.
Step back, both of you.
And we invite you to participate in tonight's text message poll question. Who do you think the winner of tonight's bout should fight next? If you think tonight's winner should fight Vitaly Klitschko, text VK to SHOTV, that's 74688. Or if you think Oleg Moskaev should be the next opponent for tonight's winner, text OM to SHOTV, that's 74688. Standard text messaging rates apply.
And we should point out that Moskaev, as the WBC champ, is mandated to fight Peter next if he is physically able to do that. But still, you never know in boxing, do you?
And of course, we always enjoy hearing what the fans think.
Yep, we sure do.
The balls? Yeah.
Don't worry, Jameel. Listen,
come on.
This guy's dead on the inside.
He's dead too. Hey, listen to me. Put your arm down. He's dead too. Listen to me. Hey, this is your dream, baby. Are you listening to me? Jameel, listen. You gotta leave it all here right now. Okay, come on, come on.
It's all you. Good job.
Matthew Drayton is now using the cheerleading tactics in the corner, telling Jameel McCline that it's his dream, because they obviously see that McCline is sort of winding down, and as this fight goes longer, of course, conditioning becomes such a huge factor. And of course, this could be a nightmare on the other side of the coin for Sam Peter. He didn't have to take this fight. He could have waited for Moskaev to come back. Of course, it would have been a longer wait, but he could have waited 3 or 4 more months to fight for the actual championship against Moskaev. What an upset this would be if McCline can pull it off.
Both men, as we said, their punch output has gone down, but they're still throwing pretty effective punches. They've also thrown some big punches, too. We've seen some bombs land, but there's that try for the uppercut by McCline.
As we get closer to the championship rounds, Peter's been 12 rounds 3 times, winning 2 of 3. McCline, 12 rounds 2 times, whereas 1 up and 1 down. Of course, the split decision loss to Chris Bird.
Sam Peter landing a big right hand after a series of jabs. But it's interesting. He's landing some monstrous punches, Steve, and Jameel McCline's holding up to them.
Well, we always knew that McCline had a good chin. McCline has not been down. As mentioned earlier, down 3 times in his career. 48 total fights.
You know, the body work of Peter could be starting to pay some dividends. He's been much more active to the body.
And then McCline comes back with that jab, which has been effective for him.
Right. Let's go. Let him out. Let him out.
Body shots there by Peter.
Right. Right.
Peter is 2-1 in 12-round fights, and McCline is 1-1. So as we move on in this fight, obviously a factor.
Yeah, McCline with the win over Lance Whitaker and the loss to Bird.
Good round for Sam Peter.
Break! Step back, step back, step back.
get the other two either.
This is the championship round here, son. You got to rumble.
You understand?
He's sinking, Sam. He's sinking. You got to keep moving, baby. You got to keep moving, Sam.
Listen.
2 to go. Are you listening to me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, let him work on that. Hey, he's got a bad eye. Work on that, Jay. He's got a bad eye. You can hardly see out of one of them. Are you listening to me? Are you listening to me? He's got a bad eye. Let's work that jab.
Sam Peter doubling with the jab and then throws a big right hand, and that punctuated what for him was a superb 10th round. And Peter has picked up a lot of steam in these last 4 or 5 rounds, and even with the 3 knockdowns, he's won, I think, a bunch of these rounds. How many, that's the question. As you see the right hand bouncing off McCline's head, it was a very inactive round for Jameel McCline.
Peter with an abrasion under the left eye, certainly not dangerous. I don't think as bad as Matthew Drayton was making it out to be in front of Jameel McCline.
Break. Step back. Break. Break.
Again, it just could have been a psychological ploy to get inside McCline's head. Give him confidence.
Break. Break. Let's go. Break. Step back. Step back.
So it's round 11. A lot of the pundits coming in thought that this would end a lot sooner in Peter's favor. There's a good left hook up to the chin by McCline.
And McCline has now said to himself, you know I can land that left hook. I'm going to take a chance and wing it and see if I can hurt Sam Peter again.
And through 10, it's awfully close. Unofficially a long press row. Now Keith Idec has it even.
Break, let him out, let him out. Let's go, let him out.
As it should be, because really Sam Peter has come back very well in this fight in the last 4 or 5 rounds.
Break. Let's go, guys. Come on.
Of course, if it ended up as a draw, with the official judges' scorecards, Peter retains the interim crown.
And what do you think Oleg Moskayev is thinking right now as he looks at this fight, back, getting himself back together?
He's probably saying, I wish I was in there against Sam Peter right now.
Maybe, although, part of this is not Peter performing poorly. Part of this, because I don't know that he has really performed that poorly. It's really about Jameel McCline making something impressive happen early in this fight. We've seen some of the skills that we saw Sam Peter improve upon. His jab has been better. He's done a good job to the body. He's landed those overhand rights. He's done a lot of good things in this.
What you have to also remember, Al, is that the guy Peter's fighting is 10 years older than him. He's 37, McCline. That's impressive what he's pulling off here. Even though right now it could be an even fight.
Break. On the break.
On the break.
On the break.
Can't do that,
Let's go,
Sam.
Let's go.
McCline may have been stunned there.
Yeah, I think he was rocked momentarily.
It's been another pretty good rock for Sam Peter.
Guys, break.
My bad, bro.
Peter right now.
Step back.
Looking for any edge. Even if he has to bend the rules somewhat.
Break, let him out. Break.
But he's been getting away with it. Nice right uppercut on the inside by Peter. Back comes McCline. McCline looking to hold on, and then he hammers away. Back comes Peter. Big finish by Peter to end the 11th. McCline says, I'm okay.
Come on, sit down, sit down, sit down. Fix that seat. Hear what I'm saying there? This is it. This is the last round. You can't. Hey, suck it up.
On the break, Michael Ortega getting in there, and the uppercut landed by Peter, apparently a little too late for Michael Ortega's taste. And there's another uppercut. Ironically, Peter has found the uppercut here in the last 3 or 4 rounds after McCline had used that punch so effectively early, and that punctuated what I thought was another good round for Sam Peter. I believe Peter has come on so strong in the second half and taken the momentum away from Jameel McCline.
After being down 3 times in the first half of the fight. Here we go, the 12th and final round for the WBC Interim Heavyweight Championship. Who thought it would come down to this?
Let's go to work.
Gloves.
you can say good things about both fighters. Jameel McCline came here to win, and Sam Peter did not panic when things went his way. And remember, let's go back to round, early in this fight when Sam Peter was down several times, and he held himself together.
Could have come down to this final round if it goes to the scorecards. Peter obviously going for the knockout here.
Break the back, guys. Let's go. Break the back.
A little more power behind those punches now for Sam Peter. This is with a left hook, right uppercut on the inside. Graves McCline.
Let him go.
But even sometimes those can really hurt.
Break. Let him out. Step back. Step.
And I'm sure Jameel McCline's thinking, oh, if I just could have ended this in round 3, I was so close to doing it.
Yeah, Peter showing a lot of resolve. Climbing off the canvas 3 times to stay in there. Here's press row again. One has it even, 2 out of 3.
Watch your head, Peter. Watch your head. Let him out.
And I think Sam Peter has come back enough to be ahead in this fight.
How about Michael Woods by 4 points, the man from ESPN, the magazine.
Now, he's obviously giving Peter a lot of these very close rounds.
The judges, Billy Costello, Julie Letterman, and Stephen Weisfeld, the official people.
In the last 4 rounds, I mean, Sam Peter has done a masterful job. And his conditioning has been better. You know, Jameel McCline did get fatigued in this fight because his punch output went way down.
I think if this goes to the cards, it's one of those fights out where whoever is deemed the winner, it's hard to argue.
Yeah, I think Sam Peter, though, has come back so strong.
He may have the edge here.
I believe he does, but wouldn't be impossible to think Jameel McCline might win a decision. And Peter is so much more active. You know, the last 4 or 5 rounds, he has just been throwing so many more punches.
So we come to the final 30 seconds of this fight.
This has turned out to be an entertaining heavyweight matchup.
Yeah, very good pace throughout for big men. A lot of punches being thrown, 3 knockdowns. Peter coming back. We'll see how it all shakes out in a couple of seconds. So this one goes in the books. And it will go to the scorecards.
And the body language of both men at the end indicates neither is sure of what's going to happen.
Yeah, you can see it on the eyes of the corner people as well. There's former champion Cornelius Boza Edwards, great fighter in his day. Super featherweight champion. The cut man in Peter's corner. McCline raising his arms in triumph to the crowd. Local product, born in Harlem, raised on Long Island. And now, the Warrior.
Yes, champion. What's wrong, man? Yes, champion. Thank you. Good one. Yes, champion.
That was nice.
Early in the fight, it started in round 2, that the knockdowns of Sam Peter surprised many. We talked about the uppercut of Jameel McCline. And he would get one in there right at the end of the round and send Sam Peters down. And, you know, we wondered, was Sam Peter hurt? Probably was, because in round 3, there's another one that hurt Peter. And then a right hand would ultimately send him down. So the times that he did use that uppercut, McCline was very, very effective, and that was the right hand that put him down. Clearly, Peter in all kinds of trouble. And then again, later in the round, he would hit the canvas. Again, the right hand, a very important weapon here. And Sam Peter went down. He was able to withstand that, continue, and in fact gain considerable momentum in the second part of the fight.
Of course, the 3 knockdown rule not in effect, unified rules. So now they anxiously await. Of course, they were in different rounds, so inconsequential. Just thought I'd throw it in for you.
Important information for us to know.
There you go.
You know, whatever happens in this fight, Jameel McCline, who's getting some accolades from the crowd, should be proud of himself that at 37, after a bad knee injury, getting another opportunity, he fought his heart out. Truthfully, Steve, I think he just hit the wall, and that's his wife, Tina. He just hit the wall in terms of conditioning, and maybe just because of age, he just couldn't go 12 hard rounds with Sam Peter. We talked before the fight about how the overhand right was an important weapon for Peter. He's a big left hook artist, but against these big, tall fighters, it's the right hand that really works for him. And throughout the fight, as we'll see as we go inside the ropes, it was the Peter right hand repeatedly that got in. And give Jameel McCline credit. You see the force of these punches. Sam Peter is a big puncher, whether it's in the form of an uppercut or an overhand right. Couldn't knock Jameel McCline down in this fight.
Great spell.
So a long, tough night for the interim champ. And it's taken a long time to tabulate the results.
You got smart.
Jimmy Lennon Jr., our ring announcer, the classy Jimmy Lennon Jr., appears to be ready with the scores. He's checking them over, and I think we're set. Let's get it up to our ring announcer, Jimmy Lennon Jr.
Ladies and gentlemen, after 12 rounds of action, we have a unanimous decision. Here are the score totals. Judge at ringside, Julie Letterman, scores about 113 to 112. Judge Steve Weisfeld scores about 115 to 111. And Judge Billy Costello scores about 115 to 110. All three in favor of the winner. And still the WBC interim heavyweight champion of the world, the Nigerian Nightmare, Samuel Peter.
Not a popular decision here at the Garden, as you can hear, but Al, you were right. Peter did enough in the second half of that fight and rallied to win.
You know, some may quibble with the margins in a couple cases, maybe a little bit, but Sam Peter fought very well from about the 5th or 6th round on in that match.
The Nigerian contingent with the flags are celebrating. There's the embrace by McCline. The best of buddies now. They go the distance. Sam Peter able to bounce back off the canvas, not once, not twice, 3 times to win. Well, before we get to the post-fight comments in the ring, a reminder coming up November 3rd, America's Fight Night is back with the WBC Super Featherweight Championship as Juan Manuel Marquez defends his title against Rocky Juarez. We'll preview what promises to be a very compelling contest in a moment here at Madison Square Garden. We're set for post-fight reaction. Let's go up to the ring and Jim Gray. Jim.
All right, Steve, thank you very much. Steve, thank you. Chaos here in the ring. Everybody still pushing and shoving. Jose Suleiman trying to get in here to award the belt. Jameel McCline, if we can get him back over here and ask him some questions before he leaves the ring. Jameel, first let us ask you, Jameel, what is your reaction to the decision, Jameel? Jameel, what's the reaction? Obviously, I guess he doesn't want to talk. Can we talk to you for a moment, Jameel, and ask you your reaction to the fight and to the decision?
Hey, I could see maybe a 1-point loss or maybe a split decision or something, but unanimous, come on.
Jameel, in the 3rd round, did you feel as though you were going to put him away? And did you let that opportunity get away, Jameel?
Yes, I did. I let the opportunity get it away. I thought I had him. He got away. That's why he's champion.
Thank you, Jameel. Let's walk back over now and get Samuel Peter as we step back across the ring. Excuse me, folks. Samuel Peter. Excuse me, ma'am. Thank you. Sam Peter. Congratulations to you, Samuel.
Thank you.
How would you assess your performance tonight?
I performed good, you know. I was fighting on cable because about 3 weeks ago I broke both hands in the camp, so that's why I was just...
Your hands are broken right now?
Yeah, both was broken even right from the camp, so I just take the fight, you know, so that's why I didn't be able to do what I was supposed to do, you know. Both hand was broken about 3 weeks before the fight.
And are they both broken right now?
Yeah, it's okay. It's okay. Yes, I can't feel I can't feel it. So,
how did you manage to hold on? And how did you survive this fight? You went down 3 times. It's the first time in your career.
Yeah, because I'm WBC heavyweight champion. You know, again, you gotta fight and prove that you're a champion.
Was it pure guts?
Excuse me?
Was it pure guts? Was it pure heart that you were able to come back?
Yeah, it's a heart. You know, I gotta retain this belt. I gotta hold it for a long time. No matter, you have to fall before you stand up. If you don't fall, you can't stand.
How concerned were you that you were not going to recover, that the fight would be ended?
I recover because I sleep, but I catch with the punches, so that's why I wake up.
When you were down for the second time in the 3rd round, were you concerned? Were you able to mentally process that this fight might be over, that you might lose?
No, that's why I stood up, you know, as a champion.
What caused you to stand up? How did you manage to get that? Where was the fortitude to do that?
Because I sleep. I caught with the punches, but I sleep too. So
you slipped the punches.
Like,
okay.
Yes, no, I sleep because of the.
Oh, you slipped. Okay.
Sleep, yeah, that's because of the paint, you know. Then he got caught with the punches.
Sam, did you overlook, in some cases, Jameel McCline?
No, because I didn't train for Jameel McCline. You know, I picked up the fight a week before the fight, so I didn't train for him. I didn't train for a tall person. I was training for somebody that, you know, my height, you know.
How much are you still learning? Your people say, Pop says maybe you're at 60%, that you still have another 40% of this game to learn. Is that an accurate statement?
In future, I will still see. You know, I'm still improving, you know, with time.
You were wide open on a couple of those shots that McCline caught you with. What happened? What enabled him to be effective?
Because my hand was broken, you know, before I pick up my hand and I sleep, I caught with the punches. I know I go with the good punches, that's all.
Did you feel as though you won the fight? Were you confident you would win this decision?
Yeah, because I stood up, I used my jab, you know, I tried to box him, you know, because I feel his power because he's heavy, 280 pounds. So I start boxing, you know, I try to move my head and use my jab.
What next now? Do you want to fight Miskeyev or do you want to fight Klitschko? Who would you like to fight?
I want to fight both of them. Any of them that are ready, I'm on, you know, in 3 months I will be ready. In January or December I will be ready to fight.
Don, who will it be?
Well, whoever it is, we've got to go with the rules of the WBC. And so whatever the WBC rules, that's what we'll do. But he put on a gallant fight tonight. He showed a lot of courage, a lot of valor. We got knocked down, he got back up, and that's the pure blood of a champion. So it's going to be a sensational champion that we got here, right now, the Nigerian Nightmare. Very proud of him. And I want to thank Matt Blank and Ken Hirschman for allowing this to happen, because it couldn't happen, and Jim Dolan was giving us the guard, and the Golden family has been
Let me ask you about the fight before you get into all that. One other question. Jameel McCline left the arena saying he could understand if it was a 1-point decision, which it was on one card, but a 5-point decision, as it was on some of the others, is disturbing. Are you disturbed with the decision?
I'm not a judge.
Are you disturbed?
I'm not a judge. I'm not a judge. I don't know nothing about judging. All I know is that I'm standing there with a great fighter, a lot of courage, a lot of conviction from a great country, 140 million people, Nigeria.
Will there be a parade in Nigeria now? Are you going back?
I'm going back, yeah. I'm going back home, you know, to bring the heavyweight to Africa. We take it back to Africa.
Congratulations to you, Samuel.
Thank you.
Steve Beck.
All right, thank you very much, Jim. Let's see how the scoring went for Peter versus McCline. Billy Costello scored the last 9 rounds for Sam Peter. Julie Letterman had the last 4 rounds and 5 of the last 6 for Sam Peter. And Steve Weisfeld had the last 6 rounds and 8 of the last 9 for Peter.
You hit on the irony that Vladimir Klitschko beat Peter after he knocked him down 3 rounds. And wouldn't it be amazing if he turned that around? And he really did. And I think the last part of that fight, certainly from the 6th round on, was totally controlled by Peter. So it's understandable in many respects.
Let's see what Pressrow had to say about tonight's fight. Keith Idek from the Herald News, The Record, had Peter ahead by 2 points. George Willis from the New York Post had it really close. Peter by 1 point. Michael Woods, ESPN The Magazine, had the biggest disparity there, 116-111 for the Nigerian Nightmare.
Yeah, my scorecard was in line, a couple of point victory for that man, Sam Peter, as he came back and did not lose his poise in this fight, and that's a key.
Well, there's the victory pose for Sam Peter, and Al, it almost was a nightmare for the Nigerian.
It was darn close, and he showed the fortitude in that 3rd round to hang in there and kept his technique intact to win those last rounds.
And with that, let's look ahead to our next installment of Showtime Championship Boxing. It's a showdown that features one of boxing's pound-for-pound best fighters defending his title against a very worthy challenger.
I want to keep fighting. I want to keep winning. I want my hands to be raised in victory.
Nice, huge shot. Oh, a big right hand by Marquez.
Marquez wants to prove that he is the best Mexican fighter that hails from Mexico.
Marquez with a tremendous combination.
I feel good mentally. I'm preparing myself physically. I want it bad.
Juarez all over Ortiz.
Rocky Juarez has devastating punching power in both hands. And every single punch he throws, it can be good night.
What a flurry by Rocky Juarez. And now Marquez going to work. Juarez going for the finish. Marquez, and that's a knockdown.
This fight is an opportunity that I couldn't pass up.
I believe in my heart I will remain champion.
It's just a matter of time that Rocky becomes world champion.
What a left hook. Action just never lets up.
I want everybody to know that I'm still the best.
What a heavy right hand. Oh, what a combination right on the chin.
Any punch they land,
to finish it here, he goes down.
Can be the end of the fight.
Well, as a promoter, the Golden Boy Oscar De La Hoya knows a good fight when he sees one. Now, intriguing matchup. How do you handicap the fight?
I think it's an excellent matchup, and for a variety of reasons, one of which is stylistically it's excellent. We've seen Juan Manuel Marquez, of course, in some of his recent fights here on Showtime. He is not just a counterpuncher. You know, he likes to attack, and Rocky Juarez, a very active puncher who we saw in his fights with Barrera, is a very, very good puncher at times. So I think the stylistic matchup makes that terrific, and, of course, a lot at stake for those two men.
All right, we hope everybody can join us next month for Juan Manuel Marquez versus Rocky Juarez right here on Showtime Championship Boxing. Well, tonight in our poll question, we asked you who you thought the winner of this evening's bout should fight next. Here's your response. How do you like that for a disparity?
Well, of course, that shows the popularity of Vitaly Klitschko, a much better known name. We point out again that the WBC has mandated that Moskaev, if he's healthy, be the next challenger. But sometimes money talks in boxing, and the fact that Klitschko is so well known, maybe they'll pull an end run. But if Peter's to hang on to the title, he would likely have to fight Moskaev if he's healthy.
And there's an old saying, Al, rules is rules. So 4 was not a charm for Jameel McCline in his quest for a world heavyweight title. It was not to be for the late stand-in versus Sam Peter. And Sam Peter able to raise off the canvas 3 times to come up with a unanimous decision in his first fight at Madison Square Garden. So here's how it officially goes into the books. Yes, Sam Peter waited a long time for this night, and he took care of business. It was close, but he did the job against Jameel McCline. The question now, will he shed the interim tag upon that elusive shot at the title? And for more information on upcoming Showtime Sports' boxing and mixed martial arts events, we invite you to visit our website at show.com. That's SHO.com. That'll do it from Madison Square Garden as we close out another edition of Showtime Championship Boxing. For Al Bernstein, Jim Gray, our entire crew, Steve Albert saying so long from New York.